Welcome back to Edzy, your personal AI tutor. Today we are revising solutions from CBSE Class 12 Chemistry and the chemistry subject identified for this course, Chapter Solutions. This is an extended episode designed for roughly 30 to 60 minutes, so settle in comfortably. I am Gaurav and with me is Swati. Keep a notebook nearby if you can, but passive listening is also perfectly fine. Last week, Meera from Pune told us she understood formulas but froze when deciding which concentration unit to use. We will solve exactly that kind of confusion today, along with concepts, questions, applications, and exam tips.
And we will not treat this as a formula listening session. We will keep asking why a relation works, what changes when the number of particles changes, and how to identify the right equation. Our map is simple. First, the language of solutions, then concentration and solubility, then Henry's and Raoult's laws, followed by ideal and non ideal behavior, colligative properties, osmosis, and finally abnormal molar masses.
A useful chapter hook is this. In daily life, pure substances are uncommon. Mixtures are everywhere, and their usefulness depends on composition. Brass, German silver, and bronze contain different combinations of metals, so their properties differ. Even a trace amount can matter, as shown by fluoride concentration in water and the carefully adjusted salt concentration of intravenous injections.
Before we begin, try one prediction. If two solutions contain the same chemical substance but different numbers of dissolved particles, which properties might change? Keep your answer in mind. The phrase to watch is number of particles because it will return in the colligative properties section and in the want Hoff factor.
Let us define a solution carefully. A solution is a homogeneous mixture of two or more components. Homogeneous means that the composition and properties are uniform throughout the mixture. In this chapter, the main focus is on liquid solutions, but the classification includes gaseous, liquid, and solid solutions.
The component present in the greatest amount is generally called the solvent. It determines the physical state of the solution. The other component or components are called solutes. Since this chapter mainly considers binary solutions, remember that binary means a solution containing two components, although each component may be solid, liquid, or gas.
Let us build the classification. In a gaseous solution, the solvent is a gas. Oxygen and nitrogen form a gas in gas solution. Chloroform mixed with nitrogen represents liquid in gas, while camphor in nitrogen represents solid in gas. The state of the solvent is the key to the classification.
For liquid solutions, examples include oxygen dissolved in water, ethanol dissolved in water, and glucose dissolved in water. These show gas in liquid, liquid in liquid, and solid in liquid. Solid solutions include hydrogen in palladium, mercury with sodium, and copper dissolved in gold. So the same classification idea works across all three states.
A common examination trap is to identify the solvent merely as the substance that dissolves the other one. That is often true in familiar examples, but the precise definition is based on the component present in the greatest amount, and it determines the physical state. Write the definition first, then apply it.
Quick check. In glucose dissolved in water, what are the solute and solvent? Do not answer by looking at which word comes first. Identify the component in larger amount and the component added to it. Your answer should be glucose as solute and water as solvent, provided water is present in a larger amount.
Now we need a quantitative description of composition. Words such as dilute and concentrated are qualitative. They can create confusion because they do not state an exact amount. Concentration tells us how much component is present in relation to the total solution or in relation to the solvent depending on the chosen unit.
Mass percentage is mass of the component divided by total mass of the solution multiplied by 100. Thus, a 10% glucose solution by mass contains 10 grams of glucose and 90 grams of water in 100 grams of solution. This method is useful in industrial chemical applications such as reporting sodium hypochlorite in bleaching solution.
Volume percentage is the volume of a component divided by the total volume of solution multiplied by 100. A 10% ethanol solution by volume means 10 milliliters of ethanol in sufficient water to make the total solution volume 100 milliliters. It is commonly used for solutions containing liquids.
Mass by volume percentage is especially common in medicine and pharmacy. It means the mass of solute dissolved in 100 milliliters of solution. Notice the denominator carefully. It is volume of the complete solution, not volume of solvent. That small wording difference is a frequent source of lost marks.
Parts per million, or ppm, is used when the solute is present in trace quantity. It is the number of parts of the component divided by the total number of parts of all components, multiplied by 1 million. Concentrations of pollutants in water or air are often expressed this way.
The chapter gives an important fluoride example. 1 part per million of fluoride ions in water can help prevent tooth decay, while 1.5 parts per million can cause mottling, and high concentrations may be poisonous. The exam lesson is not to memorize the story alone. Understand why trace concentration units are useful.
Mole fraction is the number of moles of a component divided by the total number of moles of all components. In a binary solution, the mole fraction of A is moles of A divided by moles of A plus moles of B. The sum of all mole fractions in a solution is 1.
If a solution has 20% ethylene glycol by mass, begin with 100 grams. That gives 20 grams of glycol and 80 grams of water. Convert both masses to moles, then divide the glycol moles by the total moles. This fixed amount method is powerful because any convenient starting amount gives the same mole fraction.
Molarity is moles of solute per liter of solution. A 0.25 molar sodium hydroxide solution contains 0.25 mole of sodium hydroxide in 1 liter of solution. Molality is moles of solute per kilogram of solvent. Here the denominator is solvent mass, not solution volume.
This is the distinction you should say aloud. Molarity uses volume of solution, while molality uses mass of solvent. Molarity changes with temperature because volume changes with temperature. Mass percentage, ppm, mole fraction, and molality are independent of temperature because they depend on masses or mole ratios rather than solution volume.
Let us test the calculation pathway. For 5 grams of sodium hydroxide in 450 milliliters of solution, first calculate moles using its molar mass. Then convert 450 milliliters to 0.45 liters. Finally divide moles by 0.450. The result is approximately 0.278 molar. Unit conversion must appear in the working.
एक सेकंड पॉज करके सोचो and answer this without calculating fully. For molality of 2.5 grams of ethanoic acid in 75 grams of benzene, what must happen first? Convert the acid mass into moles. Convert the benzene mass into kilograms and divide. The chapter's value is about 0.556 molal.
We have completed the first major idea. A solution has components, and concentration can be represented in several ways. Before moving on, remember the denominator. Mass percentage uses total mass of solution, volume percentage uses total volume of solution, molarity uses liters of solution, and molality uses kilograms of solvent.
Solubility is the maximum amount of a substance that can dissolve in a specified amount of solvent at a specified temperature. It depends on nature of the solute and solvent and also on temperature and pressure. The phrase specified conditions matters because solubility is not one universal constant.
The chapter uses the idea like dissolves like. Polar solutes generally dissolve in polar solvents and non-polar solutes in non-polar solvents because similar intermolecular interactions favor mixing. Sodium chloride and sugar dissolve readily in water, whereas naphthalene and anthracene dissolve readily in benzene.
When a solid solute is added, some particles enter the solution. This is dissolution. At the same time, Some dissolved particles return to the solid state. This is crystallization. When the two rates become equal, the system reaches dynamic equilibrium. The concentration remains constant, but the processes have not stopped.
A saturated solution is in dynamic equilibrium with undissolved solute and contains the maximum amount that can dissolve under the given conditions. An unsaturated solution can dissolve more solute at the same temperature. Do not define saturated as simply very concentrated. Equilibrium and maximum solubility are the important ideas.
For solids dissolved in liquids, pressure has no significant effect because solids and liquids are highly incompressible. Temperature can have a stronger effect. If dissolution is endothermic, solubility generally increases when temperature rises. If dissolution is exothermic, solubility may decrease as temperature rises in accordance with the equilibrium shift.
Gases behave differently. Their solubility in liquids is greatly affected by pressure and temperature. Increasing pressure generally increases gas solubility. Increasing temperature generally decreases it, because dissolution of a gas in a liquid can be considered similar to condensation and is treated as an exothermic process.
Here is a prediction check. Why is dissolved oxygen important in water? Because it sustains aquatic life. Why might warm water be less comfortable for aquatic species? The chapter connects this with lower gas solubility at higher temperature. This is an example of connecting an equilibrium idea to an observable biological effect.
We now enter Henry's law. At constant temperature, the solubility of a gas in a liquid is directly proportional to partial pressure of that gas above the liquid. When mole fraction is used to represent solubility, the commonly used equation is P equals K sub H multiplied by X.
In this equation, P is the partial pressure of the gas, X is its mole fraction in the solution, and K sub H is Henry's law constant. A higher K sub H at a given pressure means lower solubility because the mole fraction X must be smaller. Also, different gases have different constants at the same temperature.
Think of a sealed soft drink bottle. The bottle is sealed under high pressure to increase the solubility of carbon dioxide. When pressure is released, the gas escapes more readily. This application follows the direct relation between gas solubility and pressure at constant temperature.
Scuba diving gives another important application. High pressure underwater increases the solubility of atmospheric gases in blood. If a diver rises too quickly, the pressure decreases and dissolved nitrogen can form bubbles. These bubbles may block capillaries and cause bends. The exam answer should connect high pressure, increased dissolution, rapid pressure decrease, and bubble formation.
At high altitudes, the partial pressure of oxygen is lower than at ground level. This can lead to lower oxygen concentration in the blood and tissues, producing weakness and difficulty thinking clearly. The chapter calls this condition anoxia. Again, identify the chain, lower partial pressure, lower dissolved oxygen, and a reduced oxygen availability.
A numerical question may give pressure and Henry's law constant. Start with X equals P divided by K sub H. Then, if the question asks for moles, relate the mole fraction to moles of gas and solvent. Keep units consistent, especially when pressure is given in bar and the constant in kilobar.
Quick recall. As temperature increases, gas solubility in a liquid generally decreases. As pressure increases, it generally increases. The words generally and at constant temperature matter. Do not apply the pressure statement without checking that the chapter is discussing gas and liquid.
That was a good place for an EDSI study moment. If a doubt remains about whether to use pressure, partial pressure, mole fraction, or molarity, ask EDSI as an exact AI tutor doubt. Let the tutor question your given data first instead of handing you an unexplained formula.
We now move from gas solubility to vapor pressure. For a binary solution of two volatile liquids, both components evaporate and establish equilibrium between liquid and vapor phases. Rolle's law states that the partial vapor pressure of each component is directly proportional to its mole fraction in the solution.
For component 1, partial pressure equals mole fraction of component 1 multiplied by the vapor pressure of pure component 1. The same relation applies to component 2. The total vapor pressure is the sum of the two partial pressures. This is where Dalton's law of partial pressures enters the calculation.
For an ideal binary solution, total vapor pressure varies linearly with composition. If one component is more volatile, its pure vapor pressure is higher, and the vapor phase becomes richer in that more volatile component. Boiler, in the chapter example, dichloromethane is more volatile than chloroform, so vapor contains a larger fraction of dichloromethane.
A useful calculation sequence is find moles of both liquids, calculate their liquid phase mole fractions, use Rawls' law to find partial pressures, add them for total pressure, and finally divide each partial pressure by total pressure to obtain vapor phase mole fractions. Do not confuse liquid composition with vapor composition.
Raoult's law also explains a non-volatile solute in a volatile solvent. The solute does not contribute to the vapor pressure, so only solvent molecules contribute. Since solute particles occupy part of the surface and reduce the fraction of solvent molecules escaping, the vapor pressure of the solution is lower than that of the pure solvent.
The lowering depends on the quantity of solute particles, not their chemical identity. 1 mole of sucrose and 1 mole of urea added to the same quantity of water produce nearly similar lowering at the same temperature as long as we compare the number of particles. This prepares us for colligative properties.
For a non-volatile solute, the vapor pressure of the solvent equals its mole fraction multiplied by the vapor pressure of the pure solvent. The relative lowering of vapor pressure equals the mole fraction of the solute. In dilute solutions, it can be related approximately to the ratio of solute moles to solvent moles.
Let us check the direction. Add a non-volatile solute to water. Does the solvent vapor pressure rise or fall? It falls. Does the boiling point rise or fall? We will see that it rises. Does the freezing point rise or fall? It falls. These three directions should be connected, not memorized as isolated facts.
An ideal solution obeys Raoult's law over the entire range of concentration. It also has zero enthalpy of mixing and zero volume change on mixing. In simple words, no heat is absorbed or evolved, and the volume of the solution equals the sum of the component volumes.
At molecular level, ideal behavior occurs when A to B attractions are nearly equal to A to A and B to B attractions. The chapter gives N-hexane with N-heptane, bromoethane with chloroethane, and benzene with toluene as nearly ideal examples. A perfectly ideal solution is rare, so the word nearly is important.
A non-ideal solution does not obey Raoult's law throughout the concentration range. If its vapor pressure is higher than predicted, it shows positive deviation. If lower, it shows negative deviation. The reason is not a mysterious label. It is the relative strength of solute-solvent interactions compared with similar molecule interactions.
In positive deviation, A to B attractions are weaker than A to A or B to B attractions. Molecules escape more easily, so vapor pressure increases. Ethanol and acetone show positive deviation because acetone disrupts some hydrogen bonding between ethanol molecules. Carbon disulfide and acetone also show positive deviation in the chapter discussion.
In negative deviation, A to B attractions are stronger than the corresponding similar molecule attractions. Molecules escape less easily, so vapor pressure decreases. Phenol and aniline and chloroform and acetone are examples. Stronger interactions reduce escaping tendency. That sentence is an excellent explanation line for a 3-mark answer.
Very large deviations can produce azeotropes. These are binary mixtures with the same composition in liquid and vapor phases, and they boil at constant temperature. Because liquid and vapor compositions are the same, the components cannot be separated by fractional distillation at the isotropic composition.
Positive deviation produces a minimum boiling azeotrope, while large negative deviation produces a maximum boiling azeotrope. The chapter gives ethanol and water as a minimum boiling example, with approximately 95% ethanol by volume, and nitric acid and water as a maximum boiling example of approximately 68% nitric acid by mass.
Common confusion check. Positive deviation does not mean stronger attraction. It means weaker solute-solvent attraction and therefore greater escape tendency. Negative deviation means stronger solute-solvent attraction and lower vapor pressure. If you remember the molecular reason, the sign becomes logical.
We are entering the central numerical section now. Colligative properties depend on the number of solute particles, irrespective of their chemical identity. The four properties are relative lowering of vapor pressure, elevation of boiling point, depression of freezing point, and osmotic pressure.
The first is relative lowering of vapor pressure. A non-volatile solute lowers solvent vapor pressure, and the relative lowering is equal to the solute mole fraction for an ideal dilute solution. Since this property depends on particle count, equal moles of different non-electrolytes can produce similar effects under comparable conditions.
The second is elevation of boiling point. A solution boils when its vapor pressure equals atmospheric pressure. Since adding a non-volatile solute lowers vapor pressure, the solution must be heated to a higher temperature to reach atmospheric pressure. The elevation is directly proportional to molality. Change in boiling point equals K sub B multiplied by molality.
K sub B is the boiling point elevation constant, also called the ebullioscopic constant. It depends on the solvent and has units Kelvin kilogram per mole. For molar mass calculations, first find molality from solute mass, solvent mass, and solute molar mass, and then substitute into the boiling point relation.
The third is depression of freezing point. A solution freezes when its vapor pressure equals the vapor pressure of the pure solid solvent. Because the solution vapor pressure is lowered, equality is reached at a lower temperature. Thus, freezing point depression equals K sub F multiplied by molality, where K sub F depends on the solvent term.
For a numerical, keep the sign and the direction separate. The magnitude of depression is positive as a difference, but the solution freezing point is pure solvent freezing point minus the depression. Similarly, the solution boiling point is pure solvent boiling point plus the elevation. Writing this explicitly prevents a sign mistake.
The chapter's glucose example illustrates the method. 18 grams of glucose is 0.1 mole, and in 1 kilogram of water the molality is 0.1 molal. With water's boiling point elevation constant of 0.52 Kelvin kilogram per mole, the elevation is 0.052 Kelvin, so the solution boils at approximately 373.202 Kelvin.
Try one mental check. If the number of dissolved particles increases while the solvent and conditions remain comparable, should boiling point elevation increase or decrease? It should increase. Should freezing point depression increase or decrease? It should also increase. The direction follows the particle count dependence.
Now let us slow down for osmosis. A semi-permeable membrane allows small solvent molecules such as water to pass, but hinders larger solute particles. Solvent flows from pure solvent or a more dilute side towards the more concentrated solution. This flow across the membrane is osmosis.
Osmotic pressure is the excess pressure that must be applied to the solution to just stop osmosis. For dilute solutions, osmotic pressure is proportional to molarity and temperature. Pi equals concentration multiplied by gas constant and temperature. It is a colligative property because it depends on the number of solute particles.
Osmotic pressure is useful for finding molar masses of proteins, polymers, and other macromolecules. The measurement can be made near room temperature, and even dilute solutions show a measurable osmotic pressure. This is helpful because some biomolecules are unstable at high temperatures, and polymers may have poor solubility.
Solutions with the same osmotic pressure at a given temperature are isotonic. Normal saline, containing 0.9% sodium chloride by mass per volume, has osmotic pressure comparable to fluid inside blood cells and is safe for intravenous use. A hypertonic solution makes cells lose water and shrink, while a hypotonic solution makes them gain water and swell.
The everyday examples now become logical. A raw mango shrivels in concentrated brine because water leaves its cells. Wilted flowers revive in fresh water because water enters their cells. Salting meat and adding sugar to fruits can protect against bacterial action because bacteria lose water through osmosis.
Reverse osmosis happens when pressure greater than osmotic pressure is applied on the solution side. The direction of solvent flow is reversed, and pure water is squeezed out through a suitable membrane. This is used for desalination of seawater and provides the chapter's important link between colligative properties and water purification.
We have reached abnormal molar masses. Ionic compounds may dissociate into more particles. 1 mole of potassium chloride can produce potassium ions and chloride ions, giving approximately 2 moles of particles when dissociation is complete. More particles produce a larger colligative effect, so the experimentally determined molar mass appears lower than the true molar mass.
Association has the opposite effect. Ethanoic acid molecules can form dimers in benzene through hydrogen bonding. The number of particles decreases, so the observed colligative effect is smaller. The molar mass calculated from that effect appears higher than the normal value. Either a lower or higher experimental value is called an abnormal molar mass.
The Van't Hoff factor, written as I, accounts for association or dissociation. It is the ratio of normal molar mass to abnormal molar mass, or the ratio of observed colligative property to calculated colligative property. It can also be understood as total particles after association or dissociation divided by particles before the change.
For association, I is less than 1 because particles combine. For dissociation, I is greater than 1 because particles separate. The corrected equations are change in boiling point equals Ik sub Bm, change in freezing point equals Ik sub Fm, and osmotic pressure equals I concentration RT. The vapor pressure relation is corrected in the same way.
A strong exam answer should explain the logic rather than merely state I. For KCl, dissociation tends to make I approach 2 in a very dilute solution. For ethanoic acid associated as a dimer, I can be close to 1/2 when association is extensive. In real solutions, incomplete dissociation or association means the actual value may lie between limiting values.
Final concept check before questions. If a solute dissociates, do you expect the observed colligative property to be greater or smaller than the calculated normal value? Greater. If it associates, smaller. And what happens to the apparent molar mass? Dissociation gives a lower apparent value, while association gives a higher one.
Let us practice answer framing. If asked to define molality, write, molality is the number of moles of solute present per kilogram of solvent. If asked to define molarity, write, molarity is the number of moles of solute dissolved in 1 liter of solution. Add the symbol and unit only after the definition is complete.
Question 1. State Henry's law and give applications. A complete response should mention constant temperature, direct proportionality between gas solubility and partial pressure, and the relation P equals K sub Hx. Then mention carbon dioxide in soft drinks, pressure-related problems in scuba diving, or low oxygen availability at high altitudes.
Question 2. Distinguish ideal and non-ideal solutions. State that an ideal solution obeys Raoult's law over the complete concentration range, has zero enthalpy of mixing and zero volume change on mixing. A non-ideal solution deviates from Raoult's law, showing either positive or negative deviation because of unequal intermolecular attractions.
Question 3. Explain why gases become less soluble in liquids when temperature rises. say that dissolution of a gas can be considered similar to condensation and is exothermic. On increasing temperature, equilibrium shifts in the direction that opposes heating, so less gas remains dissolved. Keep the equilibrium reasoning visible in your answer.
For numerical problems, begin by listing the known quantities and their units. Decide whether the question gives solution volume or solvent mass. Convert grams to kilograms for molality, milliliters to liters for molality, and temperature to Kelvin when required. Then select the equation. This order prevents formula substitution without understanding.
Here is a compact prediction round. A non-volatile solute lowers vapor pressure. Lower vapor pressure raises boiling point. The same lowering lowers freezing point. A semi-permeable membrane allows solvent through more readily than solute. More particles increase colligative effects. Association reduces particle number, while dissociation increases it.
We are entering the final section now. The entire chapter can be seen as one chain. Mixture composition is described by concentration. Solubility explains how substances enter a solution. Henry's law describes gases. Rolle's law describes vapor pressure. Deviations reveal molecular interactions. Colligative properties reveal particle count. 1/2 factor corrects the count.
One more common mistake. Do not write that all properties depend on the identity of the solute. Colligative properties depend primarily on the number of particles, but association and dissociation change that number. Therefore, chemical identity matters indirectly when it determines how many particles are actually present in solution.
Another mistake is mixing up mole fraction in the liquid phase with mole fraction in the vapor phase. For a volatile binary solution, first use liquid mole fractions in Rolle's law to calculate partial pressures. Then use each partial pressure divided by total pressure to find vapor composition. The two compositions need not be equal.
Your small challenge is this. Take 100 grams of a 10% glucose solution and calculate the moles of glucose, moles of water, mole fraction of each, and molality. Then, write one sentence explaining why molarity cannot be obtained unless the solution volume or density is available. This tests the chapter's central reasoning.
Let us close with the essential recap. A solution is a homogeneous mixture. The solvent is generally the largest component and determines physical state. Concentration may be expressed as mass percentage, volume percentage, mass by volume percentage, ppm, mole fraction, molarity, or molality. Henry's law connects gas solubility with partial pressure, and Rolle's law connects vapor pressure with mole fraction.
Remember the remaining core ideas. Ideal solutions obey Rolle's law and have zero enthalpy and volume change of mixing. Positive and negative deviations arise from weaker or stronger solute-solvent interactions. Colligative properties depend on particle number, vapor pressure lowering, boiling point elevation, freezing point depression, and osmotic pressure. Osmosis involves solvent crossing a semi-permeable membrane.
The common mistake to avoid is using molarity when the question gives only mass of solvent, or using molality when the question gives only volume of solution. Check the denominator before choosing the formula. Your next step is to solve the 100-gram glucose challenge, then explain the answer aloud as if teaching a friend. That explanation will expose any remaining gap.
Well done for staying through this extended revision. If one numerical still feels uncertain, return to the data, identify the denominator, count the particles, and choose the law that matches the situation. You can use EDSI for active recall or an exact doubt, but make sure you still do the final reasoning yourself. Keep your revision calm, and we will meet in the next chapter.